Hey there, alchemists. Well, welcome to part 2 of our Defy Gravity Rainbow series. So, we call it the Rainbow series because we are diving into an element of our own energetic system. And this energetic system has been connected to the Western mysticism, the inner castle and the seven mansions, to the Kabbalah and the tree of life, and of course the Eastern mystic tradition of the chakras. Now, within this energetic system of ours, we have what we would call our shadow aspect, which is the part of us that needs healing. And then we have our grace, which is the path to that healing. We defy gravity by learning to manage our shadow and our grace. So what we're doing is we are excavating our inner landscape to develop a deeper awareness of where we are suffering. Because so often where we suffer, we think it's just how life is. And it's just, well, life is hard and I just have to deal with this, right? But when we are managing our shadow and our grace, what we discover is that we can actually be responsible from right where we are in this moment, and we can move forward out of that suffering, right? We can change it, or we can rise above it. Okay, so we call forth the light, the grace, the quality of spirit that we need in any given moment, and that's how we start our healing process. Now, this is how we then learn to see the world as a mystic, to see everything, see God in all things. And then we act in the world as the alchemist. So we take responsibility to transmute the weight of our suffering, right? The metaphorical lead, and we transmute that into the gold. And this is how we heal the package of our life. We do this one step at a time, one chakra at a time, one shadow, one grace at a time. Now, in the first session of our Rainbow series, I talked about the root chakra and the shadow of arrogance and hubris, and then the grace of reverence. Now, in this shadow, we let our most fearful aspect drive our bus, right? The most fearful, limited part of us, the part of us that fears being humiliated, being ashamed, and that's what drives all of our choices. And from this shadow, we'll need to be right, we'll need to be the smartest person in the room, and we're going to want everybody to see how perfect our life is, even when it's not. We don't want to share if we're struggling. We're too embarrassed. But here's where we call forth the grace of reverence to see the divine in all aspects of our life, to see that all of life is sacred, that God is everywhere present, and that this is actually a sacred journey that we are taking together. And then this opens the way to heal the shadow of our second chakra and call forth grace in all of our relationships. So today, we're going into the shadow and the grace of the sacral chakra, which is represented by the color orange. And it's about all of our relationships in the package of our life, not just with each other, but also our relationships with our career, with time, space, money, right? With our creativity. It's how we show up every single moment of our day. Now, when we are empowered, we trust ourselves, we trust what works through us, for us, as us. We trust that God is at work in everyone else, even when we don't like that person so much, right? So we live our truth, we give our very best, we honor our gifts, and we're not afraid to honor the gifts that other people bring to the table. We're not threatened, okay? When we are empowered, we're not threatened. We can honor and admire the gifts that other people bring into our lives. Now, if we are in our shadow, we will feel threatened by others. We'll feel threatened by their gifts, right? We might worry that they're more talented than we are and that people will love them more than they love us. We might worry they're going to get our stuff if they have more money, right? So life then becomes about manipulating our circumstances so we can be happy. And if we're manipulating what's out in the package of our life, we're not doing any of the inner work, right? And here's where it's doing the work here that actually anchors the change into our lives. Okay, so the shadow of the second chakra, the sacral chakra, is greed or avarice, which is an extreme need for more of something. And in this shadow, we will feel a void and we'll try to fill the void, but we can't. We're always going to need more of something. And so that might look like, of course, a lot of people, they need more stuff, right? A nicer house, a better car. I know for myself, it turned into needing more workshops, needing more training, needing to read more books. When I first got my holistic health practitioner certification, the requirement to get that certification back in the early 90s was 500 hours. Well, every time I would see a new client and they would say something like, oh, well, have you ever heard of the such and such, healing method? That's a really good method. And then I would think, oh my God, if I want to keep this client, I better learn something new. And so I was always thinking, well, I have to learn something new so people will keep liking me. I ended up with close to 1,500 hours of training. And I didn't even use 3/4 of all that, right? I never even went back to most of it, okay? Sometimes what we're seeking is attention and approval. We want to be the favorite. We want to be loved the most. Sometimes we want to be the most important, right? We want to go on our social media and set everybody straight when it comes to how they eat, vote, pray, or parent, right? We know best, and if everybody will just acknowledge that, then we can be okay, right? So this shadow puts us out of integrity, and we don't get to show up as the authentic being that we really are. And it keeps us from following through on our creative ideas because we're so busy trying to fix things in the package of our life. We don't have time to turn in here. We don't have time to listen and act when we are guided by divine inspiration. And so when I say that it keeps us from following through on our creative ideas, I'm not talking about being artsy. I am talking about what our soul desires for us to do to create the next new experience that we're having, right? It's the act of creation, right? How we think and how we act creates our experience, right? It's our let there be light moment, right? That's what that is. We set the intention, we take the action, we bring more light, we bring more joy, we bring more goodness into our lives. And so our creative expression, right, is our doing, what we're doing, that anchors a divine idea into the physical life. It's a way for us to call more of our soul, more of divine substance into our lives. Now that is the inner work. But if we're too busy manipulating the package of our life, we won't bother with doing the inner work. Now, this shadow of never having enough is also the shadow that is haunted by addiction, where we are turning to something outside of ourselves to cope with the pain in our lives. And of course, we know the obvious addictions are drugs, alcohol, food, shopping, but there is also the addiction to getting more stuff, to seeking attention and getting approval. There's actually even an addiction to drama, right? When things start going nice and smooth, we have to create some kind of drama in our lives. Now, when we are in this shadow, we will pay a heavy price. We'll mistreat others, not mistreat others, I'm sorry. In a way it is mistreating them, but we'll mistrust other people. And it will feel like everybody's competing with us for our stuff. Whatever that stuff is, time, attention, money, glory, okay, whatever. We'll feel threatened, and we will see everyone as outside of the divine. Now, here's the thing about seeing God in all things. If we do not see God in all things, every single person, then we're not actually seeing God as the everywhere present force that it is. So we're not seeing ourselves in God, right? We will feel ourselves to be also outside of the divine. Now, the grace of this chakra is the grace of piety, which is to demonstrate reverence for God. It's more than just acknowledging the divine in all things. It is actually seeking the divine in all things. All right, so Carolyn Mace says this about the grace of piety. The grace of piety seeks that which is divine in others and brings out our spiritual instincts, right? So this is how we create change within ourselves so that change is created out in the package of our life, right? That's how we do that, right? And we also, with the grace of piety, we can uphold another person's life as sacred along with our own. Now, Peace Pilgrim said this. This is a little long, but it's amazing. In all the people I meet, though some may be governed by the self-centered nature and may not know their potential at all. I love how she says the self-centered nature, not their self-centered nature. She goes on to say, I see that divine spark, and that's what I concentrate on. All people look beautiful to me. They look like shining lights to me. I always have the feeling of being thankful for these beautiful people who walk the earth with me. This is piety. This is devotion to seeing the sacredness in all of life, to see the divine spark and decide that's what we're going to concentrate on. That. So we're looking at someone and maybe we don't like them. Maybe they eat, vote, pray, parent differently than we do. So we decide to not concentrate on their behaviors and instead concentrate on the divine spark within them. So through this grace, this is how we see the hand of God in all things, right? Peace Pilgrim knew how to find the higher ground. She held the higher ground through the practice of piety. And we hold the higher ground that nothing exists outside of God, right? That God is all things, and the plan of God, the hand of God is at work in all things. We hold that higher ground when we also practice devotion to the sacred. And we honor that works through us, for us, as us, and through others. Now, when we honor ourselves, first of all, we honor our body as the sacred vehicle that it is. The whole reason that we get to play this game of life right now and have all of these experiences. So we honor our body as a sacred vehicle. Then we honor the divine ideas, the inspirations that we receive, because these are also from the universe, right? And we honor divine inspiration and ideas by acting on them, right? We act in faith. And then we honor others by remembering the divine spark within them and concentrating on that divine spark, loving God in them, right? That's how we honor others. So this goes to work in all of our relationships, then, the entire package of our lives, because every relationship shows us our level of spiritual power, right? What is our relationship to other people, to time, space, to money, to our creative expression, right? How are we showing up in our day? That will show us our level of spiritual power. So we can go through our day and ask ourselves, so did I see God in that person? Did I choose to see God in that person or not? Am I able to honor this person's gifts or not? Am I jealous? Am I envious of their talents? Or do I look at them and think, oh my gosh, if they did it, that means I can do it too, right? So when we're empowered, we will trust ourselves and we will trust what it is that is working through us, for us, as us. We will live our truth. We will give our very best, and we will honor this sacred life, right? And honor how others are on this sacred journey with us, also in this sacred life of ours. So we'll be able to see all of life as sacred and everyone as a holy partner on this journey that we're taking. What that means is that everything and everyone and everywhere is a potential channel for the activity of the divine in our lives. Everyone, everything, everywhere. So here's our call to action for this week. I'll start with our affirmation. My light burns brighter when I seek out the light in others. Okay? My light burns brighter when I seek out the light in others. Remember, it's having awareness of how we show up in all of our relationships. And that's what shows us our level of spiritual power and whether or not we're able to call forth our spiritual instincts. So when we look at the package of our life and how we show up, it's showing us like if we're able to do our best with what we've got, or are we waiting for somebody to come in and fix something, right? Or are we blaming somebody in our life because we think, well, they got my stuff. They're doing what I want to do and there's not enough, right? My light burns brighter when I seek out the light in others. Okay, my light burns brighter, and then I call forth greater gifts into my life when I seek out the light in others. So we are defying gravity when we remember that the activity of God is at work in all things, right? And defying gravity means we're not being crushed by the weight of our lives. We're not being crushed by the suffering and the struggling. Instead, we transcend it, right? We either change it or we rise above it because God is all things and God is everywhere present, and the activity of God is everywhere present. So our spiritual instincts become stronger when we seek only the wonder that is God. But we have to concentrate on this. We have to concentrate on seeking only the divine. It's really easy to look around and see all the things that are wrong. I mean, just go on social media, spend 2 minutes on there, and you want to probably argue with somebody, right? So we have to concentrate on seeking only the wonder that is God. Now, here's one of my favorite quotes from Meister Eckhart. When the soul wants to experience something, she throws out an image in front of her, and then she steps into it. Yeah, our soul's primary intention is to experience itself through us, through our choices, and through our actions, right? Through our way of thinking, because that's how we honor the non-physical into our physical experience, right? That's how we anchor the divine ideas that we get, that if we act on them, we bring greater joy, light, and love into our lives. So here's our invitation for this week, right? Where all of us are going to experience relationships this week, right? Through either people or things that we're doing, our career, time, space, money. And so this week we're going to get an opportunity to see how we're showing up to the package of our life, right? How are we seeing the activity of God as present? Because if we see God as everywhere present, we call forth our spiritual instincts, like knowing what to do next, right? Following the guidance, acting in faith, holding compassion for other people and mercy. And so today or this week, right, we can ask ourselves, think again about this quote from Meister Eckhart. When the soul wants to experience something, she throws out an image in front of her, and then she steps into it. So we can ask ourselves this question through our whole week. What am I about to step into? Okay, what am I about to step into? Is this an opportunity to grow, to expand my consciousness, to expand the joy, love, and light in my life? Right? How am I choosing to see it? Right? Whatever it is I'm about to step into, how am I choosing to see it? Am I focusing on the wonders that are God? Or am I seeking limitation? Am I blaming? Am I complaining? Right? It is in this moment, right here and right now, that we get to live our divine self, our authentic self, right? By remembering our divine identity. We call forth the grace of reverence to remember that all of life is sacred because God is all things, and that means everything that's ever been and everything that's yet to be. But then we devote ourselves to that practice by concentrating on seeking the divine in all things, to seek only the wonder that is God, right? Because that is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all of this stuff, right? You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.